able to control the content and you're able to control the advertisement. You're able to control, and when I say control, you're able to pull the levers for conversion rate optimization and email. When these stars align, essentially is really when you'll be able to see exponential growth.
Welcome to the very first episode of this podcast. Today I have Yaniv Dayan. Yaniv is a marketer, e-com growth marketer, agency owner. Yaniv, how are you doing?
I'm good, Juan. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. Right before we start, I'm going to say kudos to you. Starting a podcast, starting a business, but starting a podcast on its own is a challenge. So, I want to congratulate you launching your podcast. I'm super excited to dive in. Feel free, like we say in French, carte blanche. So you have free reign to ask the questions you like to ask, and hopefully the audience can get some value out of it.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. And are you ready to dive in? I'm just gonna go ahead.
Let's go. Let's dive in.
Okay, perfect. So can you tell us who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Yaniv Dayan, and I'm an e-commerce growth expert. Essentially what we do is we build e-commerce brands through content creation and paid advertisement. We also do email marketing. So we essentially make clients money. We help build the brand, and we have a team, small boutique e-commerce agency that we essentially help other businesses grow.
Awesome. That's super exciting. I know this is right now, but it wasn't always like this. So I want to know a little bit more about you, like in the early days, what were you doing, or how did you get started into entrepreneurship, and what was the main thing that you were doing, or did you identify as a teenager or young adult like certain traits in yourself for you to take this path?
For sure. I mean, there were a couple of questions there and couple of sub questions. So, the first thing I'll say is when it came to entrepreneurship, I don't think I even knew what the word entrepreneurship was at the age of 7 years old, 8 years old. I think I was graduating elementary school, and I was heading into college, and I was high school, and I wrote I had written on the end of year book. There was a bunch of questions, and the teacher asked, and on the end of year book, we had a page where it was dedicated to the graduates, and they essentially wrote, "What do we want to be?" And I'll never forget, I wrote, "I want to be an entrepreneur." I never knew what it meant. I never knew the sacrifices. I never knew the perks and benefits that come with entrepreneurship. I just essentially said, I want to be an entrepreneur. So that's, I think, the first time the concept, the ideology of being an entrepreneur came to my mind. But when I really put it into practice was only up into 5-6 years ago. So I don't mind telling a bit about myself. You're absolutely right. It didn't start being an e-commerce growth expert. I'll take you a bit back. Essentially what happened was, there's two parts of my story. The first part is growing up, I would say. I was very grateful to have been raised in a wonderful, loving, caring family. And, I give my success to really two people. One is God, two is my mother. I understood from a very young age. My mother I come from divorced parents. So essentially my mother has been a woman that has worked very hard and has sacrificed her own self for the better of her kids. And I think that's really, from a young age, I grew up quite early. So that's definitely subconsciously a time in my life where I thought, you know what, I know entrepreneurship is claimed to make a lot of money. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that don't succeed, but in my head, it was all fancy and like, okay, I'm going to help my mom and I'm going to contribute. And, subconsciously saying that my mother had to work 3 different jobs and sacrifice her life for us. I think subconsciously that's when I figured out I wanted to be an entrepreneur as well. Now, That's the first part of the question, I believe. The second part of the question is, how did I start in this field? How did I get here? I would definitely say that personal development has helped me a lot. I would go to college, but I'm a college dropout. I mean, that's not true. I graduated, but I graduated with after 6 years, something that should usually take. We live in Canada, so the typical college collegial years is usually 2 years. It took me six because I dropped out quite a few times.
Well,
Yeah, I dropped out because I just didn't find interest. There was no, already when you come out of college, what you come out of high school, you have a lot of stress. What are you gonna do? Where are you gonna
yeah,
go? What what high school, what college are you gonna choose? What program are you gonna get accepted to? So there was like all this stress, right? So somebody that's coming out into college, you're giving them so many ways of getting even more lost. I found, and I really didn't find anything that stuck to me or that I found interest in. So on the side, I tell some now clients, it's actually full circle. It's funny. I tell some clients on the side is like, I have a YouTube PhD. Tell me, really? You can get a YouTube PhD? I'm like, no, no, no. It's just a saying that I have because I've spent so much time, dedication, and hours learning my craft today. So circling back, I would definitely say personal development is super important because what I was doing at a young age was not being taught in your typical college, right? A lot of YouTube influencer. I'll never forget. I think Dan De Silva. Do you remember Dan De Silva? Are you
Dan
familiar with Dan De
Silva.
Silva?
No, I don't think so.
So Dan De Silva is one of like the OG guys for me. When I think of e-commerce and learning about e-commerce. So yeah, I would say personal development, understanding, what it is to build a website, how
Mm,
to create content, drive people to the landing page. And yeah, I hope that answers your question.
yeah, totally. And I 100% agree that I feel like most people nowadays or young people that don't know what to do, they kind of struggle a little bit on knowing what path to take, mainly because college or whatever it is that their thought is not interesting, so they don't dedicate themselves and put in the effort to actually learn this stuff. Um, but right now, I mean, you don't even have to go to college to make a living. I mean, whatever thing that interests you, I say, is the thing that you're gonna pursue. So yeah, I totally resonate with that. So can you tell me a little bit about how, like, what was your first business?
My first business, I didn't own the business. I had a small, I mean, to a certain extent, I owned the business, but a very small equity of the business. And even though I mean, at the end of the day, I was getting paid a salary, I still had to treat it as entrepreneurship. And essentially, so I'll take you back. Essentially, I worked for a family operated business, and that business was a wholesale business. The business model was to find brands and use what's called an arbitrage system, where we would find brands in Europe. We would find brands that had a bit of following, knew a bit of what content creation was, understanding a bit of, the direct to consumer trend. We're talking back 2015, 2016. So
Okay.
that's when we started to. So the business model was essentially wholesale, bringing footwear from Europe and selling across North America. And then with time, we started to adapt and we started to go online. And when we started going online, it's a funny story that I like to mention again to my team members, to clients, is when I was working 5 to 6, 7 years ago for the family operated business, what we essentially did was hire a marketing agency because we didn't know what we were doing, or I didn't know what marketing was, but it was always something of interest to me. And I hired a marketing agency. And I remember it's so funny, we're now October heading into November tomorrow. Black Friday is right around the corner. And I had called for a round table with this marketing agency. I'm like, okay, what's the plan? What are we doing? How are we getting new clients? I didn't know much on what customer acquisition was and content creation and running ads through Meta. So I'll never forget. They said, you know what, Yaniv, we have the best plan. We have an amazing idea. And I said, I was all ears and I can't wait. I couldn't wait. I was excited. I'm like, okay, we're going to have a breakthrough moment. And they tell me, we're going to take postcards and we're going to take these postcards and we're going to go and collaborate with our regional post mail office. And we'll put these postcards in these people's homes. And that's how we'll drive people to their website. And I'm just like, are you serious? We're trying to be a digital marketing. We're trying to have digital strategies. I was excited. Maybe we had like a campaign structure that we were going to go or some sort of advancements within the digital marketing aspect of things. But they took me offline, right? And I was just like, oh my God, what are we doing? So that's when I really locked myself up in my room. No distractions, no friends. I said, bye everyone. I was like 19, 21 years old. And I said, okay, let me learn this. And I started learning on YouTube, started self-development, understanding how to create content, how to, I'll never forget, run and create campaigns on Facebook. What does a website consist of in terms of conversion rates, email marketing, understanding all these levers to pull. And that was, I think, one of the biggest challenges. So, I mean, I lost a bit my train of thought.
Yeah, no worries. Before we jump back into today's conversation, I wanted to take a quick moment to invite you to subscribe to the newsletter. Each edition is packed with actionable insights pulled directly from the episodes on the podcast, along with the latest developments in AI, marketing, and trends. By signing up, you'll get fresh takes on how innovators across industries are solving real-world problems. So if you want even more value delivered straight to your inbox, consider subscribing to the newsletter. It's free, it's insightful, and it will keep you one step ahead. Now let's get back to the episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for people like us that like to learn a lot of stuff, I always say YouTube was like my real university. You call it YouTube University because you're always learning something new every day, right? So amazing. So that was really the thing that got you into marketing and all of this. So tell me, how did you start it right now, like with your current agency? How do you guys work with brands? What is it that you do?
Great question. So when I left the family operated business, it was very tough, challenging to leave. You're working with family, close ones, loved ones. How do you tell them, look, that, you want to take a next step, a new step in your life, a different chapter? It was very complicated, but at the same time, they understood. They understood very well, and they understand that they also wanted the best for me. So I was very fortunate. Again, working with family is tough, man. It's not easy. So they understood, and because coming back to my main point earlier on is that we're 18 cousins, and it's like we're 18 brothers and sisters, right? We're super close. So even my uncles, my cousin, my relatives, they really understood that it was time for me to step out and pursue what I really wanted to do, was open this digital marketing agency, because I've built a brand, right? I was on that side. I understand what a brand expects and is asking for from working with an agency. It's crazy to say I'm not just some sales guy that has opened a marketing department, has opened the marketing department and can go ahead and sell clients. I've sold over $18 million online throughout my career. So I had the fundamentals on what levers to pull in terms of running an e-commerce business. So that was, I'm super, super grateful to have had the 7 years that I've had working there and being able to build the e-commerce brands that we had at that time. So I definitely had some knowledge to jump in and say, okay, let me just put back the pieces to be able to offer this to other clients. First thing I did was go through my network. Network is your net worth, they say. Very super fortunate that in my network, I knew some people that ran other e-commerce businesses. So with time, I let time do its part, and I was able to go ahead and collaborate with an agency. So I started off working with somebody local that has a another agency that doesn't offer these marketing services that I do, right? I primarily focus in meta, content creation, and email marketing. They would focus on website design, video editing, Google, right? Completely different from what I was offering. So first thing I did is, you know what? I went up to him and said, look, maybe some of your clients would need this service, right? You're primarily focused on Google. Maybe if we can now create content and scale their ad campaigns, we can now run them on Facebook. So that's how I really started. And then one thing led to another. I started getting even more case studies, and word of mouth was a big thing. Essentially, if you do a good job, because we live in such a small place, people hear of it, and one thing could lead to the next. And I'm very, very grateful that I have to say, up to now, it's been word of mouth, organic, in regards to client acquisitions and referrals.
Wow, that's amazing. Because that puts into perspective like how meeting someone or getting the right connection goes a long way, right, in making business. And because I see so many, like for me, for example, that I used to run a small content creation agency, like cold outreach was something that I thought it was needed, like to grow a business. But sometimes like you don't even have to spend like the whole day sending emails and all of this. So you would say the main focus right now for someone that's starting is like build your network and do a great job, obviously, because that's how people recommend you.
I mean, the first thing I would say, just to add on to that, is build a skill set first. Provide value. How do you make money in the marketplace? You provide value, right? If there's no value you can provide to marketplace, then what's the difference with you and anybody other, anyone else, or anybody else in different types of markets? So you understand, the first thing is to be able to have a skill set to provide value. Once you're able to have provided value and build a skill set, then you're able to then reach out to people in your network and start saying, you know what, I have you package your service into an offer, and then you go ahead and you tell your network, look, this is what I can do, this is what I've done, let me help you out, and so forth. So those, I would say, is the three key things to go ahead into trying to, one, build an agency, and two, have a plan of action to execute.
Okay. So right now you told me that you have worked with 7 and 8 figure brands. Well, I saw that on your website. Um, what were some of the key strategies or growth strategies that you implemented for these brands, for example?
So I'll take one brand. I'll leave the name out for for NDA reasons. I don't want to give any disclosures to the brand, but I'll definitely mention that it's a brand that came to us that primarily was focusing on Google. Google was their main lever. They had a good website, good optimization. They carry several brands. But they were primarily driving traffic from Google. And for me, I see that as an opportunity. I see as opportunity that people want your brand, are searching for your brand, but are just not necessarily seeing it when it comes to Meta, Facebook, and Instagram. Right, it's billions of users that use Facebook and that use Meta. So to me, I said, okay, there's traffic, there's intent, there's conversions. People are coming, buying from these brands, buying these products. So I said, okay, right away, I said, you know what, let's come and create some different types of content, have a content strategy. And the first thing I wanted to do is try to grab as many low hanging fruits. So the first thing is we went ahead and we did a remarketing strategy, right? Because all these people that are now coming to are searching for your products and coming to your website, whenever they leave your website and they're just browsing to go and see their friends, or take a look at different stories, they're now going to see your advertisement there. So that's one brand that we really help expand their business through Meta. Another brand another client that we work with was essentially having between $50,000 to $60,000 months with Meta. We then were able to integrate our team and essentially start spending $50,000. That's one thing I can mention. So, like I'm gonna mention, in today's world, we're in 2024. Whoever tells you that it's 89%, 80 to 90% of advertisement and 10 to 20% of content creation. It's just simply not it. You really need these both levers. And of course, there's conversion rate optimization that comes into play and email marketing as well. But if we were to stick it to basics, content today's day in world is super important, combining it with advertisement and coming up with different types of basic marketing tactics that you can implement. When you're building a brand in 2024, static images still work. Yes, videos are super important and more engaging, and you can do so many more different things when, getting new audiences just by the people that have already engaged with your video, but static images still crush. So essentially, if you want to build a brand in today's day and age with the use of AI, with the use of Midjourney, with the use of Canva and CapCut, you're really able to put some sort of product together to be able to offer it to the marketplace.
Awesome. So you would say it's not only in order to see growth, it's not only important just to focus on the side of advertising, but like not only in the part of analytics, but also on the part of creative, because creative drives a lot of impressions, right?
Yeah, and like before, it's just I say this when back in the drop shipping eras, like pet was a big industry, big niche. You can have a picture of a cat with a chain, and you'd be able to blow it out based on the targeting. Today, it just doesn't work. So there's a lot of e-commerce, or I should say meta agencies out there that only provide a service to run your advertisement. But I tell myself, how? You can't control the creative. There's just the feedback loop from. So the way I'll break it down, and I'll get a bit technical with you, is essentially after doing the market research and understanding, okay, who your ICP is, who's your ideal customer persona you want to go, and your avatar that you want to start attacking. You want to start creating content, right? Different types of content until see what resonates, what sticks. In terms of a media buy, you need that feedback loop. You need that content creation and that launching of ad creatives and saying what is working, what headlines working, what concept is working, for them to be able to give that information back to the creative team to then be able to get back to the advertisements and then scale campaigns like that, right? If you're just a Facebook advertisement agency and you just run ads and you're essentially waiting to get creatives and content from your clients, from the brands, it's a never ending game and there's fingers being pointed. So if you're able to control the content and you're able to control the advertisement, you're able to control, and when I say control, you're able to pull the levers for conversion rate optimization and email. When these stars align, essentially is really when you'll be able to see exponential growth when driving advertisement, and essentially you'll really be able to see the full potential of e-commerce.
Wow, amazing. I love that.
Does that
And
help?
yeah, so I am thinking, because obviously analytics and creatives are two separate departments and they don't always talk to each other. And recently I've came across this SaaS that's called Motion Creative Analytics. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
For sure.
But essentially what they're doing is like they are marrying both departments into one single one. So they can really test and iterate based on what creatives are performing well, what is not performing well. So I want to ask you, let's talk about UGC. For the people that don't know, what's UGC?
UGC is user generated content. UGC is essentially it's a new era, or new. We're in 2024, so it's not as new, but quote unquote, it's a newer area from the influencer. Because think of an influencer, you pay them a certain amount, but that's really the only thing you have to say, right? Is negotiating a contract with them. They're gonna tell you how they're going to promote the products. I'm talking about bigger influencers, right? So micro influencers are still more or less manageable. When talking about bigger influencers, they're going to tell you when they're going to post it. There's a lot of their control. They're going to post on their story. After that, maybe they might leave it there. They might delete it. You don't have much control when it comes to the creative. As opposed to UGC, the goal is not to say or to see or to validate how many followers you have. The goal is to validate, can you make good content? That's all. Can you make content that's going to go viral? right? Because if we're able to then add in our sauce and we're able to add in our scripts and our research on what type of hooks is working better and have them provide them with a script to what hooks to say, what body to do, what call to action to say, to be able to, even to provide us different hooks, we're really then in control of the creative. So that's where I see a big difference in regards to influencers versus UGC, user generated content. And then best thing to do then is then take this content that you make with these creators, launch them organically on your social media. Once you launch them organically, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, they're going to give you back the data and they're going to tell you, okay, which one is having more of traction, more review. So if you're constrained, if you have a small budget, this is a little golden nugget is essentially launch them organically, see which ones have more view, and then take the ones that do have more view, add maybe some text, some call to actions, right, some buttons, some animations, some after effects to really make it in terms of an ad creative, and then launch it as an ad to a certain budget. You know that you're limiting your risk, you're only launching something that more or less got traction. So that's a small little way to be able to launch content at a smaller budget.
Okay, that makes so much sense because it's really the platform or the algorithm that it's validating that it works, right? And then you can later scale it up with ads.
And
And
just one thing I
yep.
wanted to mention, sorry not to cut you off, is that whenever you, very, very important, guys, whenever you do run advertisement with the UGC content creators, assets that they provide you, make sure that you're able to, right? There's a lot of UGC content creators that will give limited rights to the brand and say, okay, no, you're only able to post this organically, but then the brand is going to go ahead and take this and run it as an advertisement. And then it's just a mess. I don't want to say a lawsuit, but it's just a mess waiting to happen. So always important to make sure that you have an agreement with the content creator that you are able to take those creative assets, one, or that you own those creative assets, or two, that you're able to take those creative assets and use them as ads for a certain amount of period of time.
I see. So that's obviously really important to have like the rights to use the content, right? I'm curious to know what were some of the best campaigns that you have seen with clients that you have worked. What what changed in terms of the creative or the UGC? How was it different?
So in terms of best campaigns, it really fluctuates. I mean, I've seen a campaign with a 52 return on ad spend with a $2,000 spent. So $2,000 to make back almost $100,000, a bit more than 100,000. But those day and age, I mean, I haven't seen that in a very long time, right? Unless it's a crazy Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale, the brand never goes on sale, and then all you need to do is have a static image creative and then just some retargeting campaign towards the audience that you've been building out throughout the year, and then yes, right. But to say best performing creatives campaigns, it's really, I really see it as a whole. You have to look at it as a picture. You have your top of funnel creatives where top of funnel campaign. This campaign is only strictly to acquire clients, right? So you need to compare it to acquiring clients. You can't compare it to the retargeting campaign, right? So you have to really break it down. The retargeting campaign, what creatives are working, right? For somebody that has already shown interest in your product or knows about your brand, what creatives are working? So essentially, I think it's a mix. Sorry. Yeah. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no worries. Um, so we have talked a little bit about analytics, creatives, UGC. Um, I'm curious to know because I want to touch on the subject of seasonality, right? So we have Halloween, which is basically today, tomorrow. We have Black Friday coming up. Christmas is coming up too. How can brands leverage these seasons? And what are, if you can give some advice for anyone that has a brand and wants to take advantage of this seasonality, uh, what what would you say? What experiments or what type of creatives do you think they would perform the best?
So I definitely think that everybody that has a brand should take advantage of this Q4, there's stats I believe that say that I think 60 to 70% of e-commerce businesses of their revenue generated is within these months, October, November, December. So now is the playoffs, I would say, when it comes to e-commerce. Now is the time where all e-commerce owner, all brands are there's no vacations, right? We'll take more vacations in January, end of January, end of February. It's really foot on the gas in terms of ad sets, ad campaigns, ad creatives, landing pages, emails. So there's a lot of prep that is needed to be done within Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And again, you want to make sure that all your stars align. So, you want to make sure that your ad creatives, you have let's break it down again. Ad creatives, make sure that you have static images, carousels, videos, UGCs. What I like to do is little golden nugget here is to take all the UGCs that you made and do a compilation, right? Two types of compilation. First type of edit is taking all the UGCs and adding over a AI voiceover script. So best thing to do is come up with a script, go to 11 Labs, have it generate an audio. You can have different types of voices. You can have different types of genres. You can have male, females. You can have Texas accent, a North American accent, a British accent, right? So all these different types of accents. You take that voiceover, that script, that voiceover, you add it over the video, and you have this video compilation. Hey guys, hey girls, it's a Black Friday, up to 60% off, shop now, right? That's the video. Whenever you look at an ad creatives, it constitutes of two things. A lot of people think of the visual aspect when looking at a video. There's also the audio, right? It's 50%. You're both looking at something and listening to the video. So that's essentially one little golden nugget, is to make some sort of compilation UGC video with a AI voiceover. Another thing I like to do with compilation UGC video is to, let's say, have different types, have the whole video come together as one, but different snippets of different UGC creators saying different things. Let's say we'll take a footwear brand, for instance. We'll take this footwear brand, take all the UGC compilation, and have one UGC say, "Oh my God, I just tried these footwear." Have the other UGC creator take that part and say, "These are so comfortable." Take the other UGC creator to say, "They're having a Black Friday sale," right? So you're compiling this whole social proof video that I think works super well. So that's two different types of videos that any creator can do, any brand can do. Static images, us versus them, why your product is better. Other static images, like having a big headline, bold text with your product, up to make sure you have a good offer, right? So up to 60% off, 70% off, because if you have your typical up to 20% off, there's no pull, right? People are waiting with their credit cards in their hand, waiting to make a purchase. So they just need to have the right product with the right offer, and essentially have them take action. So we covered content, covered different types of content. Landing page. Try to make sure that you have one landing page dedicated specifically for Black Friday. So you can have one landing page, whether it's a product page or you can have a collection page. The collection page, you'll have a banner on top that says Black Friday, right? All the creative. So you want to make sure that your messaging fits the landing page where you're going to drive this traffic to. You want to make sure that you have different types of email flows set up, ready to go. And a lot of people say, how many emails should we send on Black Friday? I mean, now's the time. The end consumer is going to be flooded with emails. So you definitely need to stand out, right? Everyone's going to be sending 5, 6, 7 emails throughout Black Friday, let alone Black Friday, let alone Cyber Monday, right? So make sure to have a good amount of emails to aware people of the promotion, letting them know what's happening, giving them a timer, expiration, maybe adding one last thing at the end, like a gift with purchase. So let's say your offer throughout Black Friday is up to 50, 60%. Maybe to your exclusive buyers, you can say, thank you so much for your loyalty throughout this year. For the next 24 hours, you'll be able to get a gift with purchase, right? So doing these types of things and strategies and applying them across the board throughout content, website, emails, and advertisement is something really important and something I think can help brands accelerate their growth overall, right? You get more clients, more orders. throughout Black Friday, Cyber Monday, which you can then send emails throughout the year with, right? You're gaining a lot of customer acquisition throughout these months. So it's not just, don't only look for the immediate return. You can also look at the long-term value of your business.
I can see now how all the pieces come together. And yeah, especially in Q4, that everybody is targeting you with their ads and everything is definitely one of the most important times to be different, to stand out, because you see your inbox and over the years you start collecting and signing up to things that you don't even remember, and then suddenly you have like all of these messages in one day. You have like probably 50 emails in your inbox. That's
True.
crazy. It's so much more competitive than it was like 2-3 years ago, and a lot of has changed. And I don't know, what do you think about this, but I always think that when TikTok came around, it changed everything, like how people communicate and how psychology works and how one random guy in Alaska can influence on your buying decisions. It's amazing what TikTok is doing. What are your thoughts on that?
So I primarily focus on Meta. For me, it's a bit more stable. We've definitely run TikTok campaigns. I'm not a TikTok expert. What I do know in regards to TikTok right now is TikTok Shop. There's a big buzzword about TikTok Shop.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about TikTok Shop. Um, it's another wave. It's another trend. TikTok is now, you know, joining Amazon.
Hmm.
So there's definitely a play to do with TikTok Shop. And for people starting out, again, I think it's something very interesting. Unfortunately, it's not available to everyone in in North America. So people in Canada, unfortunately, right now, if you don't have loopholes around it, it's very
Yes.
hard to launch a TikTok shop. Have you tried?
No, I've seen a lot of people. I mean, I know some hacks that people use,
To
and
open
they're
up
able. I
accounts?
don't know if they buy accounts that are on the US or they change their IPs, or I don't know what they do, but I've definitely seen people from other countries start using it. And yeah, it's something that's very new, and I see people doing like very, very good on TikTok Shop. Even kids like 14, 15-year-olds making a lot of money with TikTok Shop because I don't know, makes sense that you just present a product, you get the link right away, you can buy whatever you want. I don't know if you've seen this girl's video. I think this
Which
Asian
one?
woman that essentially she does like lives on TikTok, and she like makes unboxings from different brands, right? So you have like this girl unboxing a Dolce & Gabbana bag or whatever, and it's a live that's running for like 2 hours, and then you have the link right below the video where you can buy the
Oh, is
stuff
it a
that
good one? Like, she's swapping out the
yes,
products?
yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's crazy, man.
Yeah,
That's crazy. I mean, I
amazing.
feel like live shopping is right around the corner. Or some people would say it's here, right? In North Korea, in China, uh, maybe it's South Korea. I'm not sure. I don't want
Yeah,
something I don't know, but there's there's definitely in other parts of the world people do a lot of live shopping, right? But I mean, it's no secret. We have it in North America. It's just called TLC, right? Pretty sure it's TLC, and you
TLC.
have TLC. No, isn't it on TLC?
But what is TLC?
I forgot the name of it, and there's channels out there, right, with live shopping that offer it to your typical older age women in the US. Around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, there's this live shopping, the shopping channel, right? It's called the shopping channel. So this live shopping does exist, but now I feel like it's going to be transforming through social media, right? So we're going to see a lot of apps now, or if already Shopify is now working with a live collaboration with Meta behind the scenes, right? I don't know, but that would actually make sense. But essentially, live shopping is right around the corner. So yeah, I haven't seen. I know what you're talking about. Um, yeah, I definitely think that something people should be aware of or should start taking a look at and understanding more about this live shopping.
Yeah, it seems like everything now is going to be more like live, like in the moment, like instantly. Uh, Sort of that games, I think, with the attention span being so low on so many people due to TikTok's feed and algorithm and all of that.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry to cut you off, but I want to go back to your point. You said, in terms of like, how do you feel about TikTok? So I started off by saying that TikTok is not something really that we really, as an agency, dabbled into, or me as an e-commerce entrepreneur, haven't dabbled into. But I think that a lot of people have, quote unquote, cracked the code when it comes to TikTok. You know, as a marketing perspective, I think it's cool. It's great. It's another channel for us to, quote unquote, sell our products, right? It's another sales channel, right? If seen that way, it's another way for brands to get discovered and known. But on the other token, like, what's the consequence, right? The end consumer, the people that are, you know, deadly scrolling on TikTok and on the app for hours a day, right? Let's be honest. If we take out our phones and time spent through apps, what is your scrolling time looking
Yeah.
like on Meta, on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok and Snapchat and LinkedIn and on and on and on. So eh, we also have to look at it like, what is it doing to this society? You know, a lot of people want instant gratification. A lot of people want a lot of people see the nice, beautiful lives on TikTok, right? And people making traveling compilation videos, and I just feel like, quote unquote, it needs to be contained, but it also needs to be taken with a grain of salt. It's another social media channel that people use as entertainment, um, and sales, of course, but definitely needs to be some sort of limitation with the amount of hours you're spending on social media. I always say, if you're not creating, you shouldn't really be consuming.
Hmm. Yeah. Interesting point. Because it's so easy to just go open an app, spend hours, and whenever you realize it, you spend like 3 hours without doing anything.
A
But
day, three
yeah,
hours, 5 days, that's 15 hours. Some people work part time jobs. That's a part time job that
that's
you're deadly
crazy.
scrolling on social media.
Wow.
Take that time, go back to learning. So, again, to the same token, you have to be careful with YouTube. Because YouTube, if you don't use it properly or if
Yes.
you're not disciplined, wow, man, you can go in
Yes.
there for, personal development or some videos you want to look at, and then you can end up into like this rat hole and just being
Yes.
there for hours and watching other videos and like, how did I get here? So, yeah,
Yeah. You have to be very intentional with what you're watching, what you're consuming for sure.
and contain your energy, contain what you're looking at, what you're spending time on. Great, there's time to deadly scroll and to consume and to be entertained, but don't spend 2 3 hours a day. And it doesn't have to be consecutively. It can be in the morning a bit when you wake up and on your way to work and on lunch break and throughout the day. So yeah, I think we really have to be careful on how much we consume.
Yeah, definitely. I wish some social media apps would implement something like that in the future. Because yes, it's a problem for a lot of people. But yeah,
What's
so
today's currency?
today's currency, attention.
Exactly. Today's currency is attention. So, currency back then used to be metals and gold and then, you know, dollar value and, you know, crypto as a currency also. Attention is also a currency. So, yeah, and I feel like it's going to be the currency for a long time to come as well.
Mm. Well, amazing conversation, Yaniv. We had so many insights and so many information that I'm sure people are gonna appreciate, and I'm glad we had this conversation. Before we wrap this up, do you have first an advice, and secondly, an advice for people that want to start a brand, and secondly, where can people find you on social media?
If if I may, I'd like to appoint maybe some final thoughts in regards to, I think that a lot of people are not lost, but this is more, I'm going to talk more towards the 20-year-olds to maybe the 30-year-olds, right? Is somebody that not necessarily is knowing what they want to do, or has, is maybe having anxiety because what they're currently doing is not what they want to be doing, and they feel maybe constrained, or they feel, blocked, so they're not advancing. If I may, I'd like to talk to those types of people that are looking for a way out, right? I'll be honest, I jumped the ship. I left one company, and when I left the company, I didn't transition into my agency. I had to leave because I tried to do both for so long, and it just wasn't working. My energy was split. I was working a 9 to 5, very intense, building out the e-commerce brands, and then, trying to come home, relax a bit, and then had to go ahead and build again, which you should do that way. But just for me, it was very hard to. So I had to jump ship. I had to leave one company to then build the next one. But my advice would be to really try to be able to work your 9 to 5 to pay your current bills, and then spend time with your loved ones, right? Relax, do what you need to decompress, and then go ahead and work that night shift. Those 3 4 hours that you can accumulate every day, Monday through Thursday. Let's say you want Friday off, right? Between, let's say, 12 to 16 hours on a weekly basis. Again, that can be a part-time job. That can be time spent on learning a skill set, right? So also, I really want to stress this point: is you want to make more money, be able to provide more value to the marketplace. How? By obtaining a skill set that's worth paying for. Um, so yeah, I'm really leaving on final thoughts of personal development's huge. You know, Jim Rohn is someone that helped me immensely in my life. He's like the OG of personal development. Of course, you have Tony Robbins and Gary Vaynerchuk and many others. So Jim Rohn is somebody that I stuck to and really helped me rewire and reframe my brain and understand, what is it that I want, and how do I go and get there. One last thing I want to mention, and give a bit of last minute thoughts of golden nuggets, is a lot of people come and they write a list, their to-do list. Well, there's some people that don't even know about writing a to-do list. Let's talk about the people that do realize that how crucial a to-do list is. Because for me, when I have my to-do list, if I make my to-do list the night before, I know that the morning after, that day after, I'm gonna have an amazing day. I am gonna be on top of my game. Why? Because all the planning and the strategizing on what to do the next day is already done for. So you come into the just attack mode. It's like coming in here and tack, 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 working on a bunch of things and spending so much less time on thinking and moving from task to task that you bang out all these things just because you're able to plan the day before. Which,
Sure.
you know, Abraham Lincoln says, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend 4 hours sharpening the knife. A model I really live by. And with that, my name is Yaniv Dayan. You can find me as Yaniv the Marketer on Instagram, Yaniv Dayan on LinkedIn. Juan, this has been an absolute pleasure. Super congratulations to you. This was great conversation. I really had fun doing it. I really had fun sharing my story. I think you asked great questions. And I'm really looking forward to maybe, having season 2 and being part of the season 2 and looking at the other guests you bring on board. But kudos to you. Enjoy, you know, enjoy. That's essentially enjoy the fun, enjoy the journey.
Yes, will do. Thank you so much, Yaniv. It was
Pleasure.
really a pleasure, and I had a lot of fun diving into these topics with you. So yeah, I'll leave the links to Yaniv's social in the description so you guys can go check it out. And yeah, thanks so much.